Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a South Korean crime thriller film called Memories of Murder. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. It is October of 1986. The movie is set in the Hwaseong province of South Korea, where a woman has been found dead near a field. The cops are immediately informed by the villagers, and head detective Park Do-mon arrives at the scene. He checks inside a sewer and finds the decomposing body of the victim. It is clear that she was treated inappropriately before her murder. After inspecting the scene, Do-mon returns to the station and starts interrogating various suspects for the crime. However, the process is very tedious, as he uses a typewriter. Do-mon takes pictures of all the suspects, and Kwon Ki-ok, a female detective, arranges them in a book. He stares them in their eyes as he believes he can identify the perpetrator through eye contact. Just then, they are informed that another woman has been murdered in the same area. Do-mon rushes to the scene and finds a footprint, which he assumes can serve as a clue. Unfortunately, before he can have a better look at it, a tractor drives over the footprint and destroys it. As a result, Do-mon ends up back at the station without any evidence collected. I hope he arrested that tractor. Several months pass by and it appears as if the case has gone cold. But one day, Do-mon learns from his girlfriend that Baek, a mentally scarred, handicapped boy, had been stalking the second victim before her death. Finally finding a clue, he immediately brings Baek to the station and interrogates him. Then, Do-mon, along with another colleague, beat him up mercilessly. They try to force a confession out of him, but the poor guy only admits that he was stalking her. In the next scene, a man is seen approaching a woman on a silent road. He tries asking for directions to a certain place, but she does not respond. This is because everyone in the town has become terrified due to the recent murder cases. The woman tries to run away, but only ends up falling in a heap. Just then, Do-mon appears and instantly jumps on the man, assuming that he is attacking the girl. Later, he learns that the man is So Tae-yoon, a detective from Seoul who has volunteered to assist with the case. On their way to the station, Do-mon goes to the crime scene, makes a footprint with Baek's shoes, and takes a picture. He then goes back to the station and tries to beat a confession out of Baek. This time, however, he shows the photos of the fake shoe prints. Despite this, Baek still denies being related to the murder. Fed up, the detectives take Baek to a field and threaten to bury him alive. So, the latter hesitantly starts explaining what happened that day. He reveals that the victim was strangled with her bra first, and then tied with her stockings. So far, this all sounds hot, Baek. When do things start going downhill? Hearing this, the detectives are shocked, as back then in Korea, crimes like murder and physical assault were less prevalent. They demand to know more, but when Baek says, "I don't know," they start beating the hell out of him. The next day, Baek is declared the killer, and is taken for a spot inspection in front of the reporters. Fortunately, Tae-yoon arrives in the nick of time and interrupts them. He checks Baek's hands, which are severely scarred, and asserts that there is no possible way he could have tied the knots around his victims. Hearing this, the villagers realize that Baek is being framed, and so they attack the officers. They are willing to support their local friend no matter what. In the following scene, we are introduced to Tae-yoon's new colleague, Shin Dong-chul, who has been transferred to lead their team. Dong-chul gets straight to work and asks the other officers if there were any similarities between the murders. However, they're speechless, simply because they have spent their entire time framing an innocent man when they could have gone after the real killer. Fortunately, the smart guy, Tae-yoon, briefs them that all the murders happened during rainy days, and the victims wore red clothes. Then, Dong-chul asks if both the victims died the same way too, but Tae-yoon's answer surprises all of them. He reveals that there were 3 victims, among which one is yet to be found. It turns out that in the past week, a third girl who was wearing red clothes went missing on a rainy day. In no time, the third body is found, and Tae-yoon is proven right. The police then confirm the murder pattern and regard the case as a serial killing. Since the cases have too many similarities, Dong-chul suggests they prepare for the next time it rains, as that is when the killer is likely to strike. One day, while the detectives are helping suppress a student rebellion, it suddenly starts raining. All of them get ready to implement the plan. The female detective Qui-ok dresses in red and walks around the area where the murders took place, hoping to lure the killer. Unfortunately, even after hours of waiting, no one arrives. Hence, the detectives head to a checkpost where they meet 2 schoolgirls. One of them tells a story about an assumed killer who apparently hides in the toilet throughout the day and only comes out at night. Stiff competition for Oscar the Grouch. As expected, the detectives find the story hilarious, and they simply laugh it off. Meanwhile, we see a lady at home listening to the radio when she gets a call. The person on the other end asks her to immediately visit him. The lady, who is wearing a red jacket, decides to switch it, hoping she doesn't get attacked. Once she gets out of her house, she starts humming a song to keep herself distracted. But just as she reaches the fields, she hears someone whistling, which makes her stop in her tracks. The woman knows what's lurking in the dark, so she attempts to make a run for it. Unfortunately, before she can call for help, a man suddenly pounces on her. The next day, the detectives find her lifeless body. The rainy day toilet boy strikes again. Just like the others, she has been strangled to death with her own undergarments. Later, at the police station, Kwi-ok insinuates that she has something important to show. She brings what looks like a list of songs played on the radio and reveals that the same song was played every time a murder occurred. Kwi-ok further discloses that a person requested the song to be played on rainy days, which coincidentally matched the murder dates. Dumon just laughs it off, which is ridiculous. What kind of detective does Dumon think he is? But Dong-chul and Tae-yoon look for information regarding it. Hoping to find the postcard with the song request, Tae-yoon goes to the radio station, but ends up disappointed, as they have already thrown it away. Dumon, on the other hand, goes to the crime scene with one of his colleagues, Yoon-ho, and spreads a talisman around, believing that the perpetrator's face will appear on it after it dries. Just then, they hear some footsteps approaching, prompting them to hide in the bushes. The two believe that it is the murderer, but to their dismay, Tae-yoon has arrived to inspect the scene. But suddenly, they hear another person approaching, so Tae-yoon also hides on the other side. After a while, a man appears and starts pleasuring himself to a woman's lingerie. Probably just a coincidence. The detectives witness this and become disgusted. Just as Yoon-ho is ready to move, he accidentally makes a sound that alerts the man, prompting him to run away. The detectives also run after him and eventually catch him near a construction site. After taking the pervert into custody, they question him mercilessly. However, the man claims that he didn't murder anyone. He was only fulfilling one of his sick fantasies. As the investigation continues, the detectives find out that the pervert is actually a very diligent person who takes good care of his family. Outside, the villagers find out about it and start protesting for the release of the man. They are fed up with police brutality and discrimination.
Hey, let us be perverts, you guys.
Yeah, let us kill people. Let us be perverts, yeah.
Frustrated that the investigation is going nowhere, Tae-yoon goes to meet the girls who told him about the rumored murderer hiding in public toilets. After talking to them, he goes to the said toilet and finds a woman there. Initially, she doesn't open the door, but when Tae-yoon mentions that he is a detective, she agrees to help. The woman then leads him to a house where the rumors began. It belongs to an extremely terrified lady who is a survivor of a similar attack. Tae-yoon listens to her story and realizes that the lady was also attacked by the serial killer they are looking for. However, the only useful piece of information he learns is that the perpetrator had very soft hands. So, he rushes back to the station and checks the pervert's hands. When he confirms that they are not soft, he lets the innocent man go, much to the annoyance of Dumon. Just then, Kwi-ok turns on the radio where the murderer's song is playing. Coincidentally, it has started raining as well. Realizing that a murder is about to take place, Kwi-ok rushes to the radio station to get the postcard. Unfortunately, just after an hour, they find another dead body. She has something stuck in her private part. It is a small piece of peach. On the other hand, Kwi-ok finally finds the postcard at the radio station and learns that it belongs to Yeon-gu, a factory worker. They immediately take him into custody, and the first thing Tae-yoon does is check his hands. Surprisingly, it fits the description, as they are really soft. They then interrogate him and mention that the killings started happening after he moved to that place. Yeon-gu admits to sending the postcards, but denies killing anyone. He tells them that he won't fall into confessing about something he didn't do. This angers the detectives, but they can't punish him, owing to the fact that they already have a bad reputation among the general public. When they confront him about the peaches, Yeon-gu starts getting uncomfortable and lashes out at them. Assuming he is the killer, Yoon-ho gets mad and beats him to a pulp, resulting in his own expulsion from the case. Now that the team is again back to square one, they decide to follow up on all their previous clues again. When they play Bayek's confession, they finally realize that he explained the incident as a bystander. So, the detectives make their way to Bayek's family restaurant. On reaching there, they find an intoxicated Yoon-ho, who gets into a fight with random people. Suddenly, Bayek arrives at the scene and hits Yoon-ho with a wooden board that pierces his leg with a rusty nail. Realizing what he has done, Bayek flees and unintentionally arrives at the scene of the first murder. Soon, Dumon and Tae-yoon also arrive. They again begin coercing him for more information. Baek finally gives in and tells them that he saw the killer's face 3 times. Thinking that they are close to solving the case, they show him Yeon-gu's picture, but Baek instead starts rambling about a house fire. Suddenly, an angry mob of villagers approaches the detectives to teach them a lesson. This scares poor Baek, and he starts running here and there aimlessly. Unfortunately, he doesn't notice an approaching train and gets struck, resulting in an instant death. The next day, with the news all over, the police station gets a lot of calls. One of them is from the forensics lab, revealing that a semen sample was found. The only problem is that the technology in Korea is too primitive to inspect it.
This cum is too mysterious, sir.
So, they have to send the semen sample to the US and wait for the results. Meanwhile, Do-man gets some devastating news from the hospital. It turns out Yoon-ho's leg has to be amputated due to the spread of tetanus caused by the rusty nail. Somewhere else, a woman is on her way to work. She is walking extremely cautiously because of the news she has been hearing lately. Shortly after, a schoolgirl walks past her. Despite the scary situation, the two don't even interact with one another. Suddenly, a man approaches the schoolgirl from behind and takes her away. He then ties her up, does mean things to her, and finishes her off brutally. The next day, Tae-yoon rushes towards the scene filled with reporters. The body of the schoolgirl has been found, and by the looks of it, the culprit is yet again the serial killer. Tae-yoon realizes that the victim is the same girl who directed him to the toilet woman. Devastated that he couldn't help her, he dashes towards Yeon-gu and starts beating him up. Tae-yoon also brings out his gun, ready to finish him off. But just then, Do-man appears with the DNA results of the semen. It reveals that Yeon-gu is actually innocent. With this, the detectives are once again back to square one, with no clues of who the murderer is. So, a few days later, the case is eventually closed. The movie then skips to the year 2003, where Do-man is having breakfast with his family. He is now retired from the force and has become a successful businessman. One day, he goes to the same crime scene, which was once filled with the dead bodies of women. Do-man looks at the drain where he found the first body, when suddenly, a little girl walks up to him. She reveals that another man was checking the drain some time ago, just like him. The movie ends as a shocked Do-man looks at the camera, realizing that the killer may still be around. The movie is based on a true story about South Korea's first serial killer. In total, he killed 15 women, and the case remained unsolved for 30 long years. When Memories of Murder was released, the case was still a mystery. But in 2020, using the help of advanced medical forensics, the killer was finally revealed to be Lee Chun-jae. He is now serving a life sentence. Too bad they couldn't catch him earlier, so this movie could have a satisfying ending. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.